an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Underlord Chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12. In these chapters, Lindon gets the best of this Underlord prince. Doesn't kill him, but apparently, according to his foe's bodyguard, they are all already dead. Also, I would like to gloat over the fact that Owen is almost done with the first book. Welcome to... Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Andy for commissioning this episode, introducing me to this series. And if you don't know who Owen is, that's my fiance who I've been pestering to listen to these books. He is very resistant sometimes to recommendations, as I think we all can sort of be, you know. And finally, he broke down and started listening to the first book, I think the day before yesterday, or maybe earlier yesterday. And it's just very exciting because I wasn't sure he was ever going to do it. And I was already planning on kind of holding him hostage on a road trip that we have coming up and making him listen to the first book. And I'm just very excited to be able to talk to somebody in a conversation about these books, you know. I just really, I just got a text from him earlier today that said remnants are awesome. And I was very excited because I had forgotten that he was reading it already. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. So these chapters, I'm going to say now, most of the actual battle, I'm going to avoid talking about specifics because I get bogged down and I run out of time. So I'm going to kind of talk about it in broad strokes, but I don't think that will take anything away from it. So we start with chapter 9 from Yerin's perspective, and she had been over there, you know, doing her cycling and extending her senses because she's still working on the breaking through to Underlord thing, even though Lindon kind of lost his temper and walked off, and that's how this whole thing started. And finally, when she gets the check-in from Dross is yelling "Hey, we could use some help." She grabs Mercy and she's trying to sense where Lindon specifically is, direction-wise. And she says something about how we're saving Lindon, and she looks down, and Little Blue is touching her ankle, trying to get her attention. I think this is the very first time Little Blue has ever, voluntarily touched her. She's touched her before because, there was an obligation. Lindon was come on, she's not going to hurt you. It'll be fine. But this is the first time I think that Little Blue has put herself out there at all. And I think this is a bit of a moment for Yerin. She can't really enjoy it, but I think that for her, maybe this means a little bit of a something. And she tells her, even if he wants to die, I'll drag him back by his tail. I've got him. So don't worry. And Yerin tells Mercy, hold on to the little one. It's about to get heated. And just as she says this green light begins to shine. And she had sensed where Lindon was, and the green light's coming from the opposite direction. So she's her instinct is oh, good, whatever the fuck that is, it's not what he's dealing with. But then very shortly, it's what she's dealing with, which this bitch is bonkers. All right? Look, I'm going to say it. Bonkers. She is I kind of wonder if something traumatic didn't happen to her. Because there is a sense of, there's been a mention before of her obsession. Or maybe it wasn't before. Maybe it was the end of this section when Harmony is talking about what she did sending the Sations after Lindon. But this girl is not entirely okay. And what we find out is going on here is that she's looking for Lindon also. She's not aware that Kiro found him already. And Kiro is like not thrilled to have to make this arrangement, but he knows that what she would have done had she come across Lindon was bog him down somehow, lock him up, restrain him, and then go and get Kiro to finish him off, or not finish it because they're not supposed to kill him, but do whatever needs doing to punish him. And he really hates the idea of her essentially pretending that he did the thing. She would let him get credit in a way that for him is sort of like humiliating. And he's really grateful later that he's actually the one who found Lindon, and that there's no pretense here at all. But she's still looking for Lindon at this point. She isn't aware that Kiro found him already. And she comes in here and she straight up is asking, where's Weishi Lindon? And she begins to repeat it. Where is he? 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 And Yerin is like, oh God, this is not good. Because this isn't like, once you realize that you are dealing with somebody who doesn't seem to have a full grasp on reality or their own sanity, plus they have the kind of power this bitch clearly has, that doesn't ever really feel like a reassuring combination. And I'm not trying to throw shade at, people who suffer from mental health issues, because Lord knows I do. Hello. But, when you have somebody who is not stable in possession of a weapon, that's scary. There's just anybody in possession of a weapon that feels wildly powerful is scary. But if you add to it somebody who is unpredictable and maybe is functioning on a level of logic that doesn't make any sense to you, they have their own understanding of what's happening or their own set of priorities, which we know hers seems to be basically Kiro is her priorities. That's it. Were she to write a list, it would just be his name. So it's understandable that the two of them are just like, oh, fuck, because they can tell she is not somebody that they want to be up against. She's an underlady, first of all. But she's really powerful even for an underlady is the vibe that you get. And the fact that they are able to stand up to her at all is low-key astonishing. And I think all of them, and by all of them I mean Yerin, Mercy, and Lindon, they are all under the impression that these two are here to kill them. Which there really is no reason to not think that. I had said at the end of the last episode of coverage that I didn't know if it was going to become apparent that he was here to make an example of Lindon but not kill him. And if it was going to be something that Lindon would be able to pick up by the way Kiro was fighting. But it becomes pretty obvious quickly that as far as Lindon is concerned, they're aiming to kill. There's not really any other way to take the kind of attack they're leveling at them. And I find that interesting, especially the way that Kiro says what he's here for. I'm trying to find this. Here it is. Kiro, first of all, he swings his weapon, which is the Titan's blade flooded into his sword. That's his forger technique, quadrupling the weapon's size in an instant with condensed Madra. His blade met the bone-hafted axe an instant later, Kiro striking with all the force of his Underlord body. And he hits really hard, and it doesn't... He intends to go through the weapon, and it says here, hit the axe with the forged blade of his extended sword, intending to sweep through the axe and chop Lindon in half. Okay, but I thought we didn't want to kill him, though. Is that just me? Am I wrong? She did say that, right? Why is he aiming to kill if that's expressly what she said she did not want? Am I wrong? Did she not say that? I could swear she specifically said that. And I feel like had he fucked up and killed Lindon here, she'd have been pissed. I don't feel like that's the sort of thing that, like, it's not even just the fact that she particularly wants Lindon alive, although I do think that's more of an aspect of it than I was realizing. I think it's more the fact that she said in front of a crowd that she didn't want him killed, and then he went ahead and did it anyway, which makes her look bad and makes him look disrespectful. So I feel like even more than Lindon's actual life, that would be a point of pride for her to not follow her explicit instructions, which were, that was an instruction given before witnesses, right? So I was really like, when I heard that, I was like, wait, what? I didn't think that's what you were trying to do. Now, apparently it is, but I don't know what to think of that. So if anybody has like input about this, feel free. However, his blade doesn't go through Lindon's at all. His arms rang with the impact as his blow was thrown back. The forger technique around the blade cracked. Lindon reeled back himself, gripping the haft of the axe in two dark green gauntlets. He raised black and red eyes to Kiro's, and Kiro felt his mind flooding in shock. How was this the strength of a true gold? And then he activates the mountain root iron body, which keeps him bound to the earth. Which I think is pretty neat. Most of it looks like, I was going to say the Shashin magic, but I'll say at least his family, him and his father and probably his brother, seems to be like earth-based magic. And it's neat to hear about this kind of thing that's like sending a root into the ground to make him so stable that he's practically an immovable object. That's pretty neat. And I like the concept of that a lot. And that comes out later when Lindon tries to like body slam him and he doesn't move. And Lindon's like, oh, word. So Kiro is like, at one point, Lindon brings forth the black flame, and Kiro's like, all right, here we go, black flame. I know how to deal with this. And as it says, it slammed into the barrier above his shield. In an instant, the layers of Madra began to dissolve. If not for instinct pounded into him from drills and training, it would have blasted straight through his shield. On the reflex his tutors had created in him, he drew on his reserve of soul fire. Colorless flame flickered through the shield in an instant, and his half-dome barrier went from a hazy gray light to a dome as solid as a stone wall. The black flame technique ended, leaving essence drifting up like smoke, but it didn't break his protection. So that's pretty neat, and I really, really like knowing how much soul fire can like affect a technique and be used to really like strengthen it in this way. So he is so focused on that and has used a lot of energy creating the shield that Kiro or Lindon comes at him from another angle, and Kiro isn't quite ready. And he is in more danger than he expected to be in this fight. He realizes at this point that the two of them are actually evenly matched. And he doesn't know what to do with this information because this kid isn't a fucking Underlord. He shouldn't be able to withstand the assault that he's just been, a victim of, basically. And he's coming back at Kiro with some blows that are so heavy and strong that Kiro is like, if I didn't know, I would have assumed that came from an Underlord. What the fuck? And this is the point where Kiro's body had been bathed in soul fire. Lindon's had not. In a few more seconds, the prince would win this contest. And I love that he's looking at Lindon here and says he had the bearing of a violent demon, a savage fixed on violence. Akura Charity's nephew must have met a horrible fate at this brute's hands. Sweetie. Oh, man. If he met Lindon under other circumstances, it's not even necessarily other circumstances because Lindon can apparently, at this point, just be walking down a hall and everybody's like, oh, fuck. So maybe other circumstances is the wrong way. But as if they had a conversation, I'll say, he would be very surprised. So at this point, he's feeling like, okay, I know what you got, Black Flame. And then all of a sudden, Lindon's Black Flame goes away. And now he's got blue light surrounding him. He swept down his sword, but Lindon reached up with one fist and struck his wrist. There was a pulse of Madra, and Kiro's hand went numb. The crackling light surrounding his sword went out. It was no longer drawing on his Madra, and it felt heavy, as though his enforcer technique could no longer reach it. That was one mystery too many for Kiro. How had a true gold met him in strength? How was he using what seemed to be an entirely separate path? The sage had mentioned nothing about that. How had he negated Kiro's Madra, and how had he managed to hit like that in the first place? Hitting Kiro's wrist as he struck with his sword sounded easy, but doing so in an actual battle required inhuman levels of control. So at this point, Kiro backs off and takes his helmet off and says, "Who are you?" And Lindon's like, "The fuck you mean, who are you? Bitch, you walked up in here and you're like, where is she, Lindon? I'm here to punish you. Fuck you." He doesn't say it like that, but that's really the vibe. That's what he's thinking. And he's right. How dare you step on into this bitch, get all in his face, just try to kill him and cut him in half, and then try to ask questions after the fact, just because he happens to be able to stand up to your ass and you came unprepared. You didn't do your research, kid. That's on you. Ugh. And he asks, "Are you the grandson of the last Black Flame Emperor? Are you a secret weapon of the Naru family?" And at this point, Lindon says, "Who sent you after me? Tell me that, and I will gladly tell you about myself." He spoke pleasantly, even politely, but Kiro's spirit warned him. He extended his senses to the aura around him. The darkness of Shadow Aura had retreated before a slowly swirling tide of smoldering red. The still releasing aura of fire and destruction was the wagon that's burning over there. Lindon had been gathering control of that aura the entire time. It was spinning slowly all around him like a newborn whirlpool. Ugh, that is very intimidating. And Kiro throws himself to the ground just as Lindon activates the aura and goes at him hard with Black Flame. Now, I didn't think this was going to kill him because we saw granted she was a dragon, but nevertheless, we saw what's-her-face withstand the Black Flame attack. So I had an idea that he would be able to. But it's really this moment is one of those that I think he believes Lindon was trying to lull him into a false sense of security or distract him so that he could then attack. And I don't think that's what was happening. I think Lindon was genuinely asking him a question and would have gone ahead and had the conversation, even with that aura swirling around him that he had been pulling in. And that he can't pretend that we're not in the middle of a fight. He's not going to gather what he needs to defend himself. But I don't think that he would have launched it if Kiro hadn't been so obviously not going to answer his questions, you know? So then we go back to Yerin, and she and Mercy are teamed up against this woman. And, I love that when she keeps asking, where is he? Mercy just yells, no. And I really enjoy that said it all, really, after she says that. Yeah, so Yerin's fighting against her. And what is this woman's name? Mira. Mira lashes out with this scythe. And Yerin feels it like warm her sword wrist, and then feels chill. The green flames of the scythe had brushed past her skin. Without even cutting her, it had taken away a chunk of her life aura. Whoa! That doesn't feel fair. Shit. And I think it's really something that this woman is fighting with life aura. She's a life artist, but that she can basically, in being a life artist, she's a tiny bit like a Grim Reaper with this scythe and being able to take life. I didn't think that's how that was going to work. And that is insane. That's so overpowered. Like, that really scared me when I got to this part. And then to see what winds up happening because of it made me very angry. And her whole like ending the fight and being like, you're all dead. I was like, fuck you. You did this. Get out of here. He wasn't even over here. And you decided to get into it with these two. You didn't have to attack. They had nothing to do with it. You brought this on yourself. I'm not sorry. The end. And it says she opened her copper sight for an instant and caught a glimpse of a green ball of liquid-looking green life aura hanging in the air where it had been chopped away. Mira's scythe swept after it, still hungry, looking for more of Yerin to cut. So, finally, Mercy activates the black arrow from that insane bow that she has. And she nails her, I think, in the chest, but she doesn't actually react to it. Mira doesn't seem to even, it doesn't do anything to her. And unfortunately, I keep saying she, but I have to be specific with names because there's 3 women here. Unfortunately, Mercy activated that jump to True Gold with her book in order to do that, which only lasts for a minute and apparently can't be done again really quickly. And that shit, because it didn't do anything, it was a bit of a waste. And I feel really bad for Mercy in this moment, really trying her best, and how it's not even that it didn't do what it was intended to do. It's one thing, trying to launch an assault and it's supposed to pin somebody to the ground or maybe blow out their entire chest and it just cuts them or just pierces them. That's something. But this woman just looks down at the arrow and then just goes and it disperses, which just feels really rude, So finally, Yerin looks at the blood shadow inside of herself and says, "You hungry?" And it surges out of her as an exact copy again. And it goes toward the life aura that's hovering in the air. And it's trying to take it. And it's not working. It's not able to grasp it for some reason. So, here it is. She manages to remember what the Sage of Red Faith's tablet said about trying to get that life essence to the Blood Shadow. The hazy globe of green drifted slightly, and the Blood Shadow snapped it up like a bird taking a fish. There is something about that description that felt really, really creepy to me. I think it's like, there's a lot in horror movies about where we will see a person moving in a way that isn't how humans tend to move, and it makes you feel really like bejiggity to see it happen. And I feel like bird-like movements from people or people-shaped beings are extremely unnerving. There's just something about it. The tilt of the head, the movements being really quick and jerky, and the idea of it snapping up like a bird taking a fish. Like, I imagined it like lunging out with its teeth and like tilting its head back to like swallow it the way that a bird will whole, It just creeped me out. And it says, its hair, a mass of red color, split into strands. Lines appeared on its face, suggestions of eyes, a nose, a mouth. It was still tied to her by a strand of Madra that extended to her core, and she could feel it suddenly pulling through that strand like it was inhaling through a reed. Not life this time. The aura in her blood. The strength of her body. Weakness flooded through her, and she fought back by powering her steel-born iron body with Madra, but the shadow was taking from her spirit, too. Even the pathetic few wisps of soul fire she had managed to gather in her soul space slipped away, devoured by the parasite. Its blades were becoming sharper, its eyes clearer. It was draining her dry. The blood shadow had slipped its leash. Y'all, can I just tell you, I did not care for this at all. I am very upset by what winds up happening here. So we go back to the fight with Lindon, but we're back in Lindon's head. And I really enjoy the way that this author jumps from one person to another within a fight so that you can see how incredibly threatening and badass they seem to the other person, and then go into their head and realize they are not excited to be here. Like, they really look like they maybe have the upper hand and are incredibly threatening. And then you go inside their head and they're just going, oh my God, 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 oh my God. So we were inside Kiro's head, and we know that despite the fact that he seems implacable, he is freaked out by how advanced Lindon seems and doesn't understand it, and is starting to like second guess his decision to take this on. And Lindon comes at him with the fucking black flame, and we're just like, yeah, Lindon, fuck it up. And then you go into Lindon's head and he's like, oh God, I can't keep this up. What am I going to do? And fucking Dross is useless. Now, I will say this out of the gate. I really, really appreciate how the fact that Lindon has Dross didn't fix like the fight basically for him, because I kind of wondered, due to how advantageous having Dross was in the fight against Harmony, I was sort of thinking, is the next fight going to be like that, where he does the whole like breakdown and then we just watch it happen again? Because that feels like if there's no beating Lindon if that's the case, and I don't see how you do that over and over and still manage to maintain tension. I didn't have a problem with it for the first fight at all, but I did wonder, like, how do you introduce something like that and then keep it up and continue for the fights to feel interesting and like there's actual stakes? And the answer is Dross just had insight into Harmony's techniques and what he could do, I am assuming, because of Dross's connection to that tree and the fact that Harmony had been communicating with the tree. So I think that Dross got a basically full profile from Harmony due to that connection, and was able to assist Lindon because he had the entire background of all of the techniques that Harmony used and how they worked and what his motivation tended to be and the way that he fought. So it turns out Dross doesn't just have access to that information. He has to collect it based on watching somebody fight and seeing all of their techniques and the things they've got up their sleeve. And if he hasn't met someone before and doesn't know about that, he really isn't that much of a help. And I think that's a really good idea. I just don't, otherwise there comes a point where you're just like, everything is so, what's the word when something is sort of projected out ahead? But I mean, I can just say that, I guess, but I just wasn't really sure. And as frustrating as it is in the midst of the fight to realize that Dross can't do here what he did then, I was also kind of gratified to learn that. I personally was, you don't want things to get too easy. And I am interested because at the end of this fight, he says that he has all the information now that he would need. And we know Kiro is still apparently alive. So if there is a rematch, better watch out, Kiro. And I don't know that he would go up against Lindon again. I don't know. That's something that is genuinely concerning me. I said this before, and I'll say it again. I like Kiro. He seems like a decent guy who's trying his best. And I don't want him to die. And I started to get really worried he was gonna. And on the one hand, I was like, if he does, that'll suck because I like him. But good on this author for making me actually give a shit that he died, because I do like the dude. And that's not something that you expect going into a fight with your protagonist for their enemy to be somebody that you're also low-key rooting for in a weird way. Not really, but a little. And honestly, I was so worried about him dying. It never occurred to me him just losing and then getting to go home to his dad as the loser, because his dad sucks and is abusive, and I am not excited to see how his father is going to react to this. I am really not certain what to expect from Charity, because it's clear from her conversation later with Mercy that she's not interested in them killing each other, really. She's trying to use them against each other to hone each other. So this is kind of what she wanted, but she didn't get the punishment that she was allegedly looking for. Will she express her displeasure and disappointment? Will she be hard with him? Will she be hard with his father? Or will his father take care of that entirely? And what will his brother's reaction be? Because his brother knows that Kiro's more advanced and apparently just stronger. So when his brother, his brother, what's his name? Daji is very resentful that he doesn't get picked to go take this dude down. When he's informed, you are not high enough level. Yeah, you're a true gold, then he's a true gold. Doesn't matter, you're not evenly matched. You can see he doesn't quite believe that and seems to be but when his Underlord brother comes home and is fucked up, is he going to then take it seriously and be wow, I'm glad I didn't fucking go do that? Or is he going to be oh, see, you keep saying he's so tough, but he couldn't even do it. Now let me do it. Is he going to want to try and and he doesn't like Kiro, but that's a rational thing. Whether he likes Kiro or not, is he going to want to go take revenge? That's the main thing. Is it's an excellent excuse to go take revenge. Be you came after my brother, even though you were your brother was sent. Even though your brother was more advanced, and picking on Lindon is kind of, a party foul. Even though you descended on them without warning, without provocation, I could see a dude like that who's always spoiling for a fight, seizing on the first flimsiest excuse and going and trying to start some shit. And there goes somebody that I wouldn't mind seeing die. Now, it's not his fault really that he sucks as much as he does because his dad clearly sucks and pitted them against each other. But also, you know, his choices are his choices and he just blows. So if he died, I wouldn't be super mad about it, except for the fact that that would probably earn Kiro's ire. And there's a part of me that wants Kiro and Lindon to get along. I feel about Kiro in a similar way as I did about Jailong, where I'm just like, you guys have some things in common, though. Like, if you could just set aside this bullshit, you'd be all right. I bet you guys could kind of, like, work it out. And I keep wondering what's up with Jailong. Where is he at? I want to know. Anyway, okay. So, Lindon basically looks around at this point and realizes that the Skysworn and the Red Flower family have all gotten away, which was what he came out here to do, was to defend them. And he puts away the axe in his soul space, or no, in his void key. And he takes off running. He books it. I wasn't expecting that, and I loved it. So he's running. Dross is telling him, that was amazing, actually. That, like, no joke, I'm genuinely impressed. That was amazing. And Lindon is also kind of like, God damn, an Underlord, and I didn't die. I am pretty proud of that. Okay. And then all of a sudden, Dross is like, okay, you are going to have to hurry because he's behind you. He is coming at you, so you better do it. And Kiro comes behind him and thrusts like this wall of rock upward and to like try and stop him. I love this so much. He borrowed the force of the explosion, leaning forward, twisting in the air, and grabbing a branch overhead, then swinging on the branch to throw himself forward. Woohoo! Dross shouted. Oh, that was amazing. Go back. Let's do it again. Oh, Dross, your commentary, sir. Dross is like that kind of character where I'm like, I find him really fun, but I'm worried he's going to get old. I am like, borderline, maybe you should pull back on Dross just a little bit. But I also like him, so I kind of don't want him to do that. But you guys know what I mean? But anyway, so at this point, they wind up facing one another again, and it really looks like Kiro has got the best of him. And just as he is about to like come down with his weapon, Lindon reaches up with the remnant hand and grabs at Kiro's armor. And at first, Kiro doesn't realize that this is something to worry about. He ignores the grab until he realizes that his armor, because it's made of Madra, and this remnant arm takes Madra, it just scooped a big fucking piece out of his helmet. It says, like butter, peeling it away from his face, the veins of his white arm filled with gray. And Kiro pulls back like, what the fuck? And Lindon throws whatever Madra he just collected back into his face. And it says, even aimlessly shoving it out carried a kick like a horse. The Underlord staggered back, giving Lindon an opening. So this is when he goes at him. Or is this when he comes at him? Let's see. Nope. This is when he flees again. That's right. At this point, Mercy shows up. And he's turning around and seeing Kiro coming and realizes that Mercy is like weaker than him and feels like he has to draw Kiro away because she is going to be at his mercy. She can't stand up to this guy, which it's one of those moments where in this moment you think, well, that makes sense. Good for you, Lindon. And then you find out later that like Mercy doesn't have to be this weak. And all of a sudden her feelings of guilt that she's struggling with begin to make more sense. He's risking his life to protect her when she doesn't need protection if she chooses to put her ego aside a little bit. And she won't do that. So now she's got people out here risking everything for her sake when maybe she doesn't deserve that, or maybe they deserve better. And that's interesting. So here comes the Blood Shadow. This thing was really creepy, and it's badass, but apparently it almost kills Yerin, so it's pretty bad. So the Mira shows up and tells Kiro, "First Prince, this place is not safe for you. Please leave it to me." And I'm like, man, the fact that she's telling him, "Hey, Underlord, these guys are too much for you. You need to get out." That's serious. So Yerin shows up, and we get this amazing sequence of her and her Blood Shadow absolutely wiping the floor with these guys. And it's not like they are killed or anything. It's not even like they're no match. But she, being a lower level than them, being this kind of badass against them is shocking. And they clearly didn't expect it. And there being two of her essentially because of the Blood Shadow just makes it just insane. So finally, there comes this moment where Kiro and Mira are like sort of pushed to the ground. Here it is. Her screams turned into sobs as she saw Kiro, because Kiro gets stabbed in the back. And it's not like it goes through him, but it's like 6 inches in. It's a good way in. It's not nothing. And she screams when she sees that and falls to her knees. And she creates this like wall of vines and leaves between them. And then it says Lindon released a bar of dragon's breath. This wasn't a game. The two had attacked without warning. Attacked sacred artists younger and weaker than they were. Lindon might not have been able to keep up with the fight in his condition, but one technique was enough. He had been waiting for the opening where it might do some good. And he tries to get through this wall with his black flame, which he really thinks is going to be easy. And it's not. She's able to defend against it, and he's like, oh, shit. And at this point, she creates this like this pillar of like green that goes upward and turns into this tree. And I thought at first that this was going to wind up being like a transport thing. She raised something in her fist, a loose blue stone that looked like a gritty ball of sand, a gate stone. She crushed it, and in a flash of blue, she vanished. The wall of roots fell when she disappeared, which allowed Lindon to see that Kiro had gone too. That was a pity. He had hoped to kill one of them. Now they would return. Is that mythical tree still there when she leaves? I know the wall of vines isn't. But did the tree remain? I'm really curious about what that tree does and how that works. I feel like that's something significant that she did, but I don't really understand what that is. Or if it was just a reflection of her using the gate stone. Was that a temporary thing that looked to be there when she used it, or what? Either way, he goes up to Yerin and is just like, holy shit, that was amazing. And Yerin passes out. And he turns to the Blood Shadow and thanks the Blood Shadow for its help. And it winks at him. And he's just like, what the fuck was that? And he watches it like curl into a rope that goes back inside of her. And it's so creepy. So then we go to Cassius's point of view. And he is thinking, like, he's just sort of surveying everything because of his ability. He's able to be a scout and, like, tell where everybody is, where the attacks are happening, and, like, help in that respect. And we find out that, like, the Black Flame Empire had not expected an attack, but they were kind of prepared for one, because they seem to just try and be prepared in general. And it says the suddenness had done its damage. No one had expected the Sation Kingdom to launch an all-out attack at all, just to skirmish over resources. They hadn't thought the Akura Sage would allow it. And The Empire's border in the Nightwheel Valley had collapsed, and the Kingdom's forces pushing through. So the Kingdom is referring to the stations, and the Empire is referring to Black Flame. Okay. So he's watching all of this and like trying to make sense of what's going on here, that the stations apparently are trying to gain territory, but they're not just slaughtering everybody, although people are definitely dying. And his wife is next to him, Narujing, who I have said before, and I will say again, I want to know about. Can we please get more of her? And it says she had been powerful before as the top-ranked high gold in the Empire. Now, the two of them had taken the opportunity to train in a place where the aura was richer than ever before. He doubted they were the top two ranked among true golds. There were some real monsters among the true golds of the Black Flame Empire, but he suspected they would be in the top 200 or 300. 200 or 300, he thinks. So when we find out what's up with Lindon and Yerin later, they are ranked above Cassius for true golds, which is like, what? But there we are. So let's see. Oh yeah, here it is. A fireball streaked like a comet through the air, and it took all of Narujing's attention to disperse it. Through his bloodline ability, Cassius saw the Underladies fix on him, drawing a spear of burning Madra from thin air. He pulled his awareness back. So is this Mira that does this? I'm trying to find the spot where we see the like Underlady who's targeting him, because I feel like it comes like out of nowhere. Oh yeah, here around the fiery Underlady. She's not fiery. No, it's not her. A woman with long burning hair who shouted loud threats as she burned her way through the forest. Yeah, no, it's not her. But I do also want to know about her. That sounds interesting. So they pull back and he almost falls because there's like another attack that comes on, from another angle that he doesn't see. And the cloud that he's standing on explodes and him and his wife begin to fall. And then all of a sudden they land on what feels like pillows, and he looks up and there's fucking Athan. And Athan is being insufferable. If only I were the patriarch, my spot would be here beside you. But alas, I was ousted from my rightful position. Oh my God. He is, and he just keeps doing this. And they just go on doing what they're doing and don't say anything to him. And eventually he says, am I being ignored? And Cassius just says, now you know how it feels. So we go to chapter 11, the medical tents. And this is where we find out, first of all, how highly ranked Lindon is now. He is getting really special treatment and has his own tent, even though there are other people who aren't even under shelter in the rain, has a personal attendant medical physician, or medical attendant from the Bright Crown family. And they have like put things next to his bed that like create dream aura to like calm him down and stuff. They are giving him the full VIP treatment. And eventually when he hears that he's in the top 100, the Bright Crown healer tells him what an honor it is to be able to attend to him. And like, just Lindon is at a level now where he's getting the treatment we have seen other people getting. And it's a little bit disorienting to read from the perspective of someone receiving this when they never have before. They've barely gotten respect before. And he keeps trying to tell the guy, I don't need all of this. Please bring other people in here. But Lindon, when he hears that he's in the top 100, he does want to know about that. And he gets the paper that lists them all. Pardon me if you were already aware, but this is an incredible honor. There are fewer true golds than high golds, certainly, but the top 100 is even more competitive than the high gold list. The truly talented do not stay at high gold. They spend most of their lives as true gold. And this list does not discriminate by age. The top 10 are all old monsters that can compete with some underlords. And he is number 96. So he's just about on the list. He's at the bottom, nevertheless, though. And he's looking at this and really feeling himself a little bit, which he's allowed. He's worked really hard. But then Dross says, oh, and look who's 87. And Dross is all encouraging. You're closing in just to think you've come so far since you started, I imagine. And then Lindon, suddenly, all of his feelings of accomplishment are just sort of wiped away. He had foolishly thought they were on even footing. And it says he'd known he was neglecting real combat training, and now he'd dropped the entire burden on her. And I'm like, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy? Something like that. Essentially, don't look at other people's accomplishments when you're feeling good about your shit, Like the other day I'm at the gym and I managed to squat 135 on the barbell. Are there people out there who can squat 350? Of course there are. Does that make it any less amazing to me that I got to 135? No. I didn't do that before. I couldn't do that. That's new. That's new for me. And I'm mad at Lindon for thinking that advancement was all it took to reach the same level as Yerin when she's been training since she was like 7 years old. Lindon, no offense, but you're trying to skip some of the struggle, and that's a little disrespectful. She has been putting in a lot of work for a lot longer than you, and some of that isn't your fault, but it's nevertheless true. And the fact that you just thought you were suddenly going to be on the same page, no, honey, and you shouldn't be. And I'd feel a way about it were I her, and you were suddenly able to fight as well as I can. You're going to have to, you're going to have to put in some of that time too. You're not exempt. You got amazing advancements because you were lucky and stumbled across some treasures, but that's not like you were in and out of the, combat training the way that she was. It's just, that was one of those moments where I was just like, Lindon, dude, come on. You're being unfair to yourself and unfair to Yerin. So finally he feels her wake up and he can sense her cycling her Madra. And he pushes out despite his attendant arguing with him and being like, this is going to ruin my reputation. He's like, you better put somebody in this tent or I'm going to be pissed. And then he walks away. And I love that there's like an attendant outside Yerin's tent as well that tries to stop him. And he's sort of thinking to himself, I really need to get used to the fact that like I'm more advanced than these people and I can do what I want. And then he shoves in and realizes that Yerin's sitting there naked and is like, oh God, and backs up and thinks, oh God, I'm sorry. And he says, apologies, I should have listened to the attendant. And Dross goes, why? Because why would Dross know that like stumbling in on her naked is like disrespectful? He doesn't understand that. So one of the attendants comes out finally and tells him that her lifeline is severely damaged. We'll stabilize her, but her time has been cut really short. She's only got a couple of months left and it'll be painless. But it's just, there's nothing really we can do. And Lindon is feeling like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And he's talking to Dross about the life well and how if he had just fucking taken some of that with him, he could have given it to her and one spoonful would have fixed her. And he realizes that he just didn't take any because it didn't seem useful for him. And so what's the point? And now he's realizing how incredibly like self-absorbed and self-centered that was. But then he finds out, because he's thinking that's like the only way that this could have fixed her. He finds out that advancing to Underlady would heal Yerin. And the woman talking to him doesn't suggest that because most people don't make it to Underlord level. Her assumption is Yerin's made it as far as she's going to go, more than likely. So probably that's it. That's the end of the line for her. But he knows that she's right on the brink and could make it. And suddenly he feels like maybe there's a chance after all. But it's clear there's still damage in the meantime. So he goes in to talk to her, and he's realizing he is desperate to say something to her, and he doesn't know what to say or what it is he's like trying to get out. And I think all of us know what he's trying to say is, I love you, don't die. But it doesn't even occur to him. And he tries, at one point they talk about all of the prizes that they could get were they to actually get selected for this competition. And the prizes are bonkers. There's like a castle and weapons and shit, and then like personal time with a sage. And I won't get into all of that, but essentially her goal is for them to make it into the top 16. As far as she is concerned, managing that would be pretty much unbelievable. And I think that she said her master only made it that far. Top 4, my master talked about top 4, but he scraped himself to the bone, making it to the solo rounds at all. The honor and glory from top 4 are more than nothing. They'd stretch your name all across the heavens. And he asks her what the top winner gets. And she says that she doesn't even know. First place is just a dream. Akura Fury won 1 year, and he's a legend. Reagan Shen won, and he ended up as a monarch, though that was an age and a half ago. First place is for freaks who were born eating true golds alive. And Lindon's like, come on, what's the point of doing this if we aren't trying to win? And she's like, winning is getting to the top 16. That's winning. Beyond that, like, I'm not even trying to pretend that we can even think about that. So at this point, Ethan is going to interrupt, and Lindon goes to Dross, tell him to stay out there. I need some time. And he can sense that Ethan is surprised at the fact that he has been detected, which I very much enjoy. And he says, Yerin, this won't stop us. You're going to be fine. It wasn't what he needed to say. He could feel it, and so could Yerin. And I'm like, say you love her. Say you love her. Say you love her. Say you love her. And Ethan tries to come in, and Lindon turns to him and yells, stop. He gives Ethan orders, and it's the best, and I love it. So then he grabs her hand again. Yerin, I don't know what I'd do if you were gone. When I think about the future, you're in it. I don't care if we go home or stay here or end up wandering in the wilderness as long as you're with me. Please, I don't want you to leave me behind. He was shaking, and every word had felt wrong. He had messed it up, and now he couldn't read her expression, so he didn't know how badly. And at this point, Ethan tries to come in again, and she yells at him this time. And he leaves again. And she tells him that she would go with him home because he had said that's where he'd like to go. And eventually, when Ethan comes in, he's looking at them and says, yes, good, very good. And I'm like, okay, here's what I think. Ethan believes that each of their motivation for the sacred arts is love for one another, perhaps. And he thinks they're finally starting to realize that and is hoping that they're going to fucking realize it finally. And they're apparently dancing around the edges of getting the fucking point. But we'll see. So Ethan brings in all of this like magical food. And I gotta say, the description of the food, the way he talks about it, the meat increases the density of blood aura, strengthening the body. The vegetables cleanse the body. The fruit cleanse and restore the spirit. And also there's some rice in there. Rice is good for you. I need to think about food this way. I need to be like, the meat increases the density of my blood aura, strengthens my body. The vegetables cleanse my body. I feel like that would just make food and eating healthily a little bit more fun. And I'm going to just try and keep that in mind a little bit. So eventually, that scene ends with Ethan telling Dross that he has a present for him, but he's not going to show it to him yet. And then we go to Mercy and her conversation with Charity. Yerin was seriously injured. She needed to advance or she would die. Mercy yearned to help. And there was one thing she could do to make a difference, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. Mercy consoled herself with the thought that surely Yerin wouldn't need her help. She would reach Underlord soon and everything would be all right. I hate this. I hate this not even so much because Mercy's not doing what she can. I hate it because I know if Yerin and Lindon find out later Mercy could have helped and didn't, the trust that they are starting to grow with her will be shattered. And I am not wanting to start from scratch with that. I want them to trust her because I enjoy her and I want her to be part of the gang in a real way. And it just doesn't, it's not happening. I kind of thought that they would have begun to like grow more warm with her, and she's not really on their minds at all. They just don't look at her the way they look at each other, which is fine. But I thought there would be some like, hey, where's Mercy? How's Mercy doing? And there's none of that. When they run into the like pillar of darkness to even get here, he grabs Yerin's hand and they run together. Like it's not, so anyway, Akura Charity shows up and Mercy's like, are you trying to get at him because of what happened with Harmony? And Charity at first says he or that beast of his left him to die. They sealed the exit. And I was like, come on, though. That's not all that happened. And then I appreciated later, Charity clarifies and is like, well, Harmony definitely created a conflict between the two of them. You know how he is. And he probably, were I to try and save Harmony, he probably wouldn't even have wanted to stop me. So I appreciated it eventually that she's like, okay, yeah, he like was the reason Harmony died, but he wasn't out here just being like bloodthirsty or cold-blooded. He was just handling Harmony the way you have to when he starts to get like that. And I just wish that, if she can admit that she would just let it go. And she does sort of say in the end of the conversation to Mercy, I had to let it be known that kind of interference with our family couldn't be borne, but also I can sort of like let it go at this point. And let's see, I'm trying to find, oh yeah, here it is. So Mercy says something about the way that their family works. And Charity says, I concede I may have leaned too hard on your friends in part because of your relationship to them. Therefore, I acknowledge that I owe you a favor. Call it in as you wish. And the boy still owes the family for Harmony. I can't let that go entirely, and he may be useful. So then we talk about the last tournament of the Uncrowned King, and that all of the monarchs are going to be there, including Mercy's mother, who we hear again, like she barely has met her mother, it seems. And I'm trying to find, because I'm running out of time here. Your mother won't say so, Charity says, but she regrets letting you go. When she did, she thought we had plenty of time and that a journey on your own would be good for you. We no longer have such luxury, but she cannot revoke her given word. So finally, Mercy says, you know that it isn't healthy. The family isn't fighting for a cause like you or Uncle Fury, which is, I'm just like, Uncle Fury. That's a great name. We're fighting to keep power over those beneath us and for approval from those above us. That isn't right. So when I said before that maybe Mercy's like retaliating against the fact that her family is like rich elites and have access to things other people don't, it seems like that's exactly right, which is really interesting. And it makes like some sense why she doesn't want to go to her family for resources, but also it's such a privilege to be able to just be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to take that for my friend who's dying. I don't know that Yerin and Lindon are going to be particularly like receptive to that reasoning if they ever find out about it. And Charity tells Mercy, you could change that. You could lead the family in a better direction regardless of their personal motivations, as Fury and I do. On your own, you only lead yourself. And that was like, that was one of those things where it's sort of like, well, you can change things from the inside. And sometimes I'm not sure that's true. I don't know. But finally, it ends with, if I'm always fighting for my mother's approval like the rest of them, I can't lead anyone. And Charity says, the revelation is nothing more than a trigger. It means accepting who you are, not who you will always be. You can still grow and evolve afterwards. And Mercy says, but I don't accept myself the way I am. And I thought that was like very interesting. We don't get any more information about that, but I would like to know what about herself she's not accepting of. And basically Aunt Charity says, Fury has yet to make his selection for our primary team, but you were to lead and I had chosen Harmony to be the second. If your brother Pride can replace you, that still leaves an empty space for Fury and one for me. And I can fill that slot however I want. And she then like vanishes and that's the end of the chapter. So I have to go. I'm over time. But thank you again, Andy, for commissioning this. I am very excited to report back to you all again on Tuesday next week. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.